construction sites, I mean, they always seem like they're right on the edge of like an accident waiting to happen. You got all this huge equipment, people running around, tight spaces, materials everywhere.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It feels like a recipe for disaster.
And it can be. The statistics are unfortunately there to back that up.
Yeah, right. It's not just like, a feeling like it's a real problem. Like in 2021, 2022, 23 out of 123 worker deaths in the UK alone were caused by moving vehicles just on construction sites.
Yeah.
That's like almost 1 in 5, that's a lot. But here's a thought. What if there was a way to stop these accidents before they happen? And that's where, AI is making its big entrance. And that's what we're diving deep into today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, we're moving away from just reacting to something after it happens to like getting ahead of it, getting in front of it, and ideally just stopping it from happening.
Okay, so AI. What does that even look like on an actual construction site? What's the technology behind all of this?
So imagine each piece of equipment, whether it's an excavator or a dump truck, anything. Imagine if it had this like extra pair of eyes, eyes that never blink, they never get tired, they're never distracted, and they can tell the difference between a person and a stack of wood.
Okay.
That's basically what human form recognition technology is.
So these cameras with AI, they're not just seeing an obstacle or something in the way. They actually can tell using algorithms that it's a human being.
Yeah, like they can tell that it's a person as opposed to something that's just, stationary, not going to move, which on a site that's this busy is a really important difference to be able to make. And what's even more interesting is it's not just about seeing that there's a person there. It can actually anticipate.
Hold on. Anticipate like a human mistake. How's it going to do that?
Well, it's all about looking at the data, looking at it in real time. So the movement of the vehicle, where the workers are, even thinking about things like blind spots, all that kind of stuff. And they can use that information to like predict using modeling. You can actually send out an alert before a worker is even in any kind of danger. So it gives, those few extra seconds that can make all the difference for both the person operating the machine and the worker on the ground.
That's pretty incredible. So it's like having like this incredibly aware spotter who's watching everything, never missing a beat. But we've talked about the idea, but what about the specifics? There's a bunch of different companies that are working on this technology right now, right?
Yeah, a lot of different companies are developing their own, I guess you'd call them takes on this tech.
Okay.
But one thing they all have in common is like they want to make construction sites safer. That's the goal here. So for example, there's this company, Spillard Safety Systems. They've got a system. What they've done is it gives the vehicle operator a real-time 3D view of everything around them, and it highlights any workers that are within like a 5-meter radius.
Yeah, and I was reading a bit about their like 3-point process where they look at the specific site, they kind of tailor the solution, and then they actually come and install it. So it seems like it's not just a one-size-fits-all situation here. They're really emphasizing that customization is important.
Right. Every site you go on is going to be totally different. The layout's going to be different. Hazards are going to be different. The way people work, everything.
Yeah.
That's why companies like Spillard are saying like, okay, we need to look at each site individually. That's how we figure out the best way to approach it.
It makes you wonder, though, if that kind of site-specific analysis, if that'll become standard practice going forward, even beyond just AI.
It's possible.
It's possible. I mean, if you're taking the time to really look at each site and how it works, you're probably going to end up with better safety measures overall, regardless of really what technology you're using.
And Spillard's not the only one doing this. I mean, Balfour Beatty, they're a pretty big name. In the UK construction industry, they've actually gone so far as to say you have to have this AI tech. They're making it mandatory.
Yeah.
On like their heavy-duty vehicles, like excavators, dump trucks, all of that.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like by making it mandatory, what they're saying is this is important to us. We want this to be the standard everywhere. And it's not just about like making sure it's installed, They've actually gone a step further and they've got this thing, it's called a digital thumbs up system.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. So it's adding in like another layer of communication there, right?
Exactly. So like before a worker can even go near one of these machines, the operator has to actively signal, okay, it's safe to come over here.
Yeah.
you know?
So it's forcing that moment of everyone being aware, everyone being on the same page. The operator knows the worker's there. The worker knows the operator's seen them.
It's like a digital handshake or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly.
So we've got Spillard. They're all about that 3D view for the operator. And Balfour Beatty's really big on the communication between the operator and the worker. It really seems like there are a lot of different ways that you can use this kind of technology.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's what makes it so interesting to see how these companies are like taking different approaches.
Mm.
So you've also got like JCB, they're another big company, and they've decided to just build the AI right into their vehicles.
Okay.
Like it's not an add-on. So their system's called JCB Intelligence, and it's got like a 270-degree camera. It's got audible alerts, visual alerts, and it's just a part of the machine now. And it's not just about like the physical stuff, the hardware. They've also got JCB Live Link, which lets them see all the safety data remotely.
Oh, wow.
So they can really dig into what's happening on these sites, look for patterns, make improvements, all of that.
That's actually really interesting because, I mean, if you think about all the data they must be collecting, they could start to like identify the high-risk areas on a site. They could analyze near misses and figure out if there are better ways to do things.
Yeah, totally. It's not just about dealing with accidents when they happen. It's like you said, you can look at the data and you can start being proactive. You can start creating a culture of safety from the ground up.
And I mean, that's going to have other implications too, right? Like, what about insurance?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you could show an insurance company that you're really serious about safety, that you've got the data to back it up, that you're actually reducing accidents, there's a good chance they're going to like that.
It makes sense. Like, they want to see you're being proactive.
Exactly. So it could even make a difference financially for companies who are using this technology.
Yeah.
But even with all of that, all the positives, there are going to be challenges, right? I mean, it's still early days for this tech.
For sure. For sure. So what are some of the, I guess, limitations of these systems right now? You still need to have all those other safety measures in place, like proper training, people talking to each other on site, that whole culture of safety that goes beyond just relying on the technology.
Yeah, you can't just assume the AI is going to solve everything.
Right.
It's a tool. It's a really, really good tool, but it's one part of the bigger picture.
And I mean, we should probably talk about the elephant in the room here. We're talking about AI, and it's basically watching what people are doing on these sites.
Yeah.
And that brings up some pretty big questions about privacy and all of that. Like, who has access to this data?
Definitely.
What are they doing with it?
Big questions.
How long are they keeping it? Could this be used for other things? I don't know. Are they tracking how productive workers are? Or could this even be used against a worker if something were to happen?
You're hitting on all the important points. And I think the key is transparency. Workers need to know what this tech is doing, how it works, what data it's collecting, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about telling them, it's about listening to their concerns, having a real dialogue about it.
It's like we're trying to find that balance,
Yeah.
We want to make these workplaces safer, but we also don't want to be like Big Brother looking over everyone's shoulder all the time.
It's a fine line. And that's why it's so important to get that buy-in. Workers need to feel like they're being heard, that their concerns are being taken seriously. Like it's a partnership, not just them being told what to do.
Right. Like building that trust is essential. Trust in the tech itself, but also, I think even more importantly, trust in the companies that are using it. Because this really does feel like, I don't know, like a turning point for construction.
For sure.
We're not talking about small changes here. This has the potential to completely change how we think about safety on these sites.
Totally. I mean, once this AI stuff becomes more common, and it will, you're going to see new standards, new regulations, maybe even like a complete shift in how safety is like built into these projects from the very beginning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it makes you wonder, like, what's next? What happens as AI becomes even more advanced? What does the future of construction sites actually look like?
It's a pretty big question when you really start thinking about it. I mean, imagine if these AI systems are making decisions in real time. What if it sees something that's about to go wrong that maybe a person wouldn't have even noticed, and it's like shuts the whole operation down?
Okay, that's getting a little, yeah, it's a little, I don't know, it's a lot to process. Like, how much control are we really willing to give these systems?
Right. It makes you think about that whole line between human judgment and what a machine can do. Like, are humans even going to be, I don't know, directly operating this equipment anymore? Or will their job become more about supervising, making sure the AI is doing what it's supposed to be doing?
Or maybe it's something totally different, Like, we have to learn a whole new set of skills to be able to even work with these machines.
Totally. It's like we're living in a science fiction novel, you know? but it's actually happening.
Right. It's wild.
Yeah. But the important thing is that we're having these conversations now. We can't just wait until it's too late. We got to be thinking about the ethics of it all, what it means for society, for the economy, all of that. Because this technology, it's powerful, and it's only getting more so.
That's what we've tried to do today, just take a deep dive into this whole AI thing, try to wrap our heads around it, not just how it works, but like you said, why it matters, who's using it, and what's coming next.
Because at the end of the day, I think everyone wants the same thing. We want to make this industry safer, more efficient, better for the people who work in it. And AI, as weird and complicated as it might seem, could be part of how we do that.
It's definitely a lot to think about. Well, that about wraps it up for this deep dive. Hopefully you've all learned something new today, or at least, have a few more things to ponder the next time you see a construction site. Until next time, stay safe out there.